Welcome to a deep dive into AI on the farm. Yeah, we're talking about high tech in the fields.
That's right.
We're going way beyond just tractors this time. AI analyzing soil, drones, big names in agriculture. It's really changing how we grow food.
It really is. I mean, this is all about making farming more efficient, and that's where technology comes in.
So we've got a bunch of reports and articles here about it. And one thing's for sure, this is not your grandpa's farm anymore. So let's start with a real-world example here. Imagine a farm in Texas in the middle of a brutal drought. Every drop of water is precious.
That's where something like Liquid Prep from IBM and Texas A&M comes in. It's a perfect illustration of how data and AI can totally change how we manage water.
Okay, Liquid Prep. Tell me more. What is that exactly?
So picture this. You've got inexpensive sensors all over the farm, and they're continuously measuring moisture levels in the soil, temperature, you name it. That data, it gets zapped up to the cloud, where it's analyzed alongside super localized weather forecasts, incredibly specific weather predictions.
So they're building like a super detailed data-driven map of the farm's needs.
Precisely, and they factor in things like crop-specific information from the Soil and Water Assessment tool.
Okay, hold on. Soil and Water Assessment tool.
It's this model that simulates the quality and quantity of both surface and groundwater, and it predicts how land management will impact all of that. They feed all of this data, soil type, land use, weather into an AI system, and the AI gives farmers personalized recommendations.
So no more guesswork, it's all data-driven? I love it. What does that look like in practice? Do farmers get like a printout and email?
They get it all delivered straight to an app on their phones, watered this much on this day, just like that.
That's wild. So this is being used on real farms.
Oh, yeah. Liquid Prep is already out there being tested by farmers, and the results have been really positive so far. It's being adapted right now for use in Ukraine to help them recover after the war, manage resources in areas affected by floods or droughts. And this is just one example of how AI is changing agriculture. But let's lift our gaze from the ground and think about what's happening up above.
Okay, I'm ready for takeoff. Are we talking about drones?
You got it. Drones are becoming massively important in agriculture, and they have been for a few years now. There's DJI that says there are over 300,000 agricultural drones already in use around the world. They're covering more than 500 million hectares of farmland.
Hold on. 300,000. That's a lot more drones than I ever pictured.
They're multitaskers. They're applying fertilizers, pesticides, you name it all, with incredible precision. We're talking about a huge reduction in water use and chemical use, which obviously means a big drop in carbon emissions.
So it's not just about doing things more efficiently, but doing them in a way that's better for the planet, right?
Exactly. Sustainability is key. That same DJI report, it talks about an agave farm in Mexico. They started using drones to apply herbicides, and they cut their water consumption by 88%.
88%? Are you serious? That's unheard of, especially in a place where water is so scarce.
Right, and it saved them a ton of money too, something like $60 per hectare. And this isn't just happening in a few places. We're seeing countries like Brazil, the US, China, they're all easing up on their drone regulations, which tells you something.
It really seems like the sky's the limit, no pun intended. Okay, well, speaking of big names in agriculture, what about John Deere? I mean, they're known for their tractors, but they must be jumping into this AI stuff too, right?
Big time. John Deere's going way beyond just tractors. They're using AI to tackle specific problems like weed control, which is a huge deal for farmers.
Right, because the old way of doing it, just spraying everything, it's super wasteful.
Exactly. You're wasting herbicides, it's bad for the environment, and it can even be harmful to the crops themselves.
That's where their See and Spray tech comes in, right?
That's the one.
I read a little bit about it. It sounds like something out of the future.
Well, it's basically this device mounted on a sprayer, and these cameras are scanning the field constantly, 2,200 square feet every second.
How does it even process all that?
AI. That's the key. They're using machine vision to analyze those camera feeds, and they can identify weeds in real time and then target them with precise bursts of herbicide. Just zap the weeds and you're done. It's incredibly precise.
Okay, that's amazing. Less waste, and I bet it saves farmers a lot of money in the long run.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
John Deere says that since they launched See and Spray back in 2021, farmers have already saved millions of gallons of chemicals.
Millions. See, this is why I love technology.
It's incredible, right?
It really is. But that's just one thing. That's just spraying for weeds. What else does John Deere have planned?
They basically want to be the brains behind the entire farm. Their vision is to move towards a software as a service model where farmers subscribe to their AI tools.
So instead of buying a tractor, you're buying a subscription to John Deere AI. I read in one of these reports that almost 30% of all the food produced globally gets thrown away before it even reaches consumers.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
It's mind-blowing.
It's a crazy amount of waste. It really highlights how urgent it is for us to develop more intelligent, more sustainable practices from farm to table.
Okay, so where does AI fit into all of that?
Well, take harvesting, for example. Imagine an AI-powered harvesting system that analyzes crops in real time and makes sure that produce is picked at the perfect moment when it's perfectly ripe. That right there cuts down on spoilage, reduces waste.
Okay, so that's one area. What about the environmental impact of all of this?
That's another huge one. Did you know that agriculture accounts for almost a quarter of all greenhouse gases?
25%. I actually had no idea it was that high.
One paper we looked at, it actually said we need to start thinking more holistically about the impact of AI in agriculture.
So not just focusing on individual things like drones or irrigation.
Right, we have to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
This paper emphasized something called the 3 pillars of sustainable agriculture: economic viability, environmental stewardship, and then social responsibility.
So it's not enough for it to be, good for the environment and good for business. It has to be good for everybody.
Exactly. We have to make sure these technologies are accessible to everyone and that they benefit all stakeholders, from small farms to, big agricultural companies.
We need to make sure everyone benefits from this AI revolution.
Right. And that means thinking about the potential downsides too, like what's going to happen to jobs in rural communities? How do we make sure farmers in developing countries aren't left behind? These are questions we really need to be asking ourselves as we move forward. The decisions we make now, they're going to have a huge impact for generations to come. It's an exciting time, but it's also a little daunting,
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
AI has the potential to completely change agriculture. I think we've made that much clear. But we have to be thoughtful about it. It can't just be about the technology itself. We have to consider the bigger picture, the economic impact, the environmental impact, and like we were just saying, the social impact.
We can't just look at what's happening in the fields. We have to look beyond that.
Exactly.
Right.
The future of food, it's something we all share. And if we have these conversations, if we make smart choices, then we can really use AI to build a food system that's good for everyone.
I love that. And that's a wrap on this deep dive into AI in agriculture. This is just the beginning of the conversation, though. For everyone listening, stay curious, stay informed, and let's all do our part to shape the future of food.